Oh, I don't think I put any eye makeup on. Hey, everyone. It's Dana and
Jamie.
Thank you guys for joining us for another fun evening in the lounge. We have a really special guest tonight. Every week, I should say, we have special guests. This topic that we're talking about is a hot topic. If you're not crawled under a rock, then you know what's going on with the election, what's been going on during the pre-election process. And we are honored to have Melyssa Edmunds of the Marriage Couch with us tonight to talk about, we have some questions about how do you talk to your partner about what's going on post-election? How do you recommend or start or bring about conversation with your kids when it comes to the election? Because I don't think I've ever been through an election where it has affected kids as much. But then again, I don't know. What do you think, James?
I would agree. I think in many conversations that I've had, if I try and find a silver lining in what feels like a chaotic state of the world and specifically our country, the bright side is that my kids are talking about it 24/7. And yes, it's stressful, but the fact that they are educated, they're knowledgeable, they have a perspective and a point of view gives me hope about our future. And you know that they care. There's not apathy, and I think that is really important.
I couldn't agree more. So we are going to bring on Melyssa right now. Hold on one moment. If you guys have any questions, please feel free to leave them in the comments. We are going to get to as many as we can. If we can't get to all of them, we will be sure to circle back with Melyssa or hopefully answer any questions that you have after the fact within the comments after the show itself. Hold on one second. So we are going to be live in the lounge with Melyssa Edmunds. Did you like that?
Hi, guys.
Hey, Melyssa, how are you?
Good. How are you guys?
Good. Thank you so much for being here with us. It's really a treat to have you on. I'm going to give everyone a little background. I met Melyssa at a event that I was speaking at about social media and how to pitch brands using social media. And we've become friends ever since. And we're really excited to have you on. Let's give everyone a little bit of a background about yourself, your family, and your history with the Marriage Couch.
Sure. So we opened up the Marriage Couch about 3.5 years ago, almost 4 years ago. And it was just me at the time. Now it's myself and 2 other therapists. COVID has just been a very big damper on a lot of marriages. It's very scary, but we're really happy to be able to be available to help, which is why we've had to hire a couple more therapists, and we've been very, very busy for 2020. And now even more so with everything going on lately. We have myself and my husband, we have 3 kids, 13, 10, and 4.
Oh, wow. You have boys or girls or both?
All boys.
You have 3.
Yes, all boys, and they're great.
Well, we're glad to have you here. This is a heated topic, not the election itself, but how to handle it with your loved one, your partner, with your children, and so on. So Jamie's going to start in with the questions.
Yeah, so one thing I just wanted to say is thank you, Melyssa, for being here this week. You know, when Dana and I were planning, you know, everything, we didn't really think about in advance what was going to be the hot topic for this week. And so, you know, for us to be able to offer to our listeners and some advice around something that is so tricky, you know, COVID is on everyone's mind, but this is so front and center right now. For you to be available, we're really super appreciative about this. And so my first question to you is, you know, how has not just COVID, but really thinking about the election and politics and so much emotion and fear around what's happening in our country, no matter what side you're on. Have you seen that show up with the couples you're working with and in your practice?
So it brings out a lot of fear, a lot of anxiety. No matter what side you're on, that's what people are bringing to the table. They're worried about finances. They're worried about what's going to happen in the next week, even tomorrow, next month. When are we going to know? So there's a lot of fear and a lot of stress happening for everyone across, all sides of the spectrum. When they bring this fear into the house, it causes a lot of stress, and that trickles down to the kids. The kids are feeling it. They're listening. They are hearing everything because they're little sponges. Usually when they're stressed with a marriage, your partner tends to get the brunt of what's going on. They tend to see you grumpy. They tend to see you in your real, your most real place. So it's really been showing up in a lot of anxiety and a lot of fear. And a lot of people don't know how to say, I'm scared, I'm worried.
Yeah, I can totally, even being able to think about it as fear and just put it in a place. What advice do you give people on how to manage that? We feel fear about so many different things, but this is everyone's fear right now is focused on the same thing.
Yeah. So there's kind of a stereotypical thing that therapists say, use I statements, say, I feel what? How do you feel? And they kind of tease about it on Netflix and stuff like that. Any shows that you would see with the therapist, they tease about it. But I think it's super important to actually use one of these statements, but use it in a much more therapeutic way. So if you're in the house, if you're trying to talk to your partner, first be vulnerable with them. If you know that you're coming off as criticizing, try and check yourself. Try and see where that's coming from. Why are you being criticizing? Is it really some vulnerability? And then also, if you're on the flip side of that criticism, try and hear it as if your partner is being vulnerable. Try and hear it and try and translate it for them, because in that moment, they can't translate it. There's something going on where it's not happening. And so in a marriage, some days you're going to be stronger than your spouse and vice versa. So that I feel statement is I feel blank, and you say an emotion. When blank, and you say an event that actually happened in the past. So something that really did happen and that has already occurred. And I need blank. And that's where a lot of people, they don't leave that and I need blank. When we talk to our partners, they need something to be able to fix it. Okay, I get it. You feel something. All right. Yeah. Whatever. You feel scared. You feel whatever. You feel vulnerable. But what can I do about it? What do I do with that? And a lot of partners, they're not very emotionally inclined to try and grasp that and try and talk about those conversations. So they need something concrete. So give them something concrete. What can you do about it?
That is so powerful. I mean, I feel like I've heard so much around I feel blank when, but the I need part has not been part of the sentence. And I think, we can't anticipate always. We can't even anticipate our own needs half the time. So imagine trying to anticipate and mind read what your partner does. So I think that is like amazing advice that I'm actually going to walk away with and put into practice very quickly. Really, really good. Do you I'm curious too, when that, because that's not a muscle people are used to flexing, when you're in counseling, is that something that you try and have people kind of role play and do, or is it something you ask them to take home and try?
So I definitely do both, because people are like, oh yeah, that's easy. I got it. But many times when they actually practice it, they'll say, I feel angry when you suck and I need blank. It's like, no, that's not the event that happened. That did not truly happen. It needs to be. And so I have to take that for them. And I have to say, all right, it's got to be an event that really happened. So I feel invisible when you walk in the door and don't give me a kiss. And I need you to walk in the door and give me a kiss. Right? So very concrete, something that actually happened. So the person's not feeling attacked and feeling kind of clueless. And what are you even talking about? It really did happen. It's concrete.
Oh, such good advice. Thank you.
I just have to close that because it is so powerful to actually, instead of just blaming or saying what the problem is, you're helping to help that person also get to a solution, what the solution is. This is what's going to make me feel better.
Yeah, and not expect mind reading, which we do way too often.
So many people do.
Mm-hmm.
So you mentioned, before that this type of, anxiety or stress or just unknown and fear winds up coming into the house, right? So not just between couples, but it impacts most directly your family and your kids, probably other people that you're around every day, but specifically your children. What is your advice on how to kind of interact with kids when there is this type of fear and anxiety in the house?
So they're looking at us for what is stressful, what's scary, what am I to be scared of. And then they're also looking to, okay, how do we deal with this? Now that we know it's scary, now that we're frustrated, how does mom deal with it? How does dad deal with it? And they're sponges. They really are. They're really paying attention to everything that's going on around them. And it's incredible. They can also be very resilient too. So there's some tools on the end of that. Dana, can you hear me on your end?
It's a little bit.
There's a little bit of disruption.
I'll try and bring the computer closer.
Can you guys hear me? Yeah, it's better.
So there's really a big emphasis on what we're doing as an example for our kids. Are we showing them that it's okay to yell? Are we showing them that it's okay to pretend everything's okay? So these ways that we're coping are very, very different for everybody. And they're watching their little sponges. So everything trickles down to our kids. So if we're stressed out about our kids, look at yourself. What are we doing in order to try and teach them how to deal with whatever's going on?
Great. So it's similar to, I mean, we're speaking really specifically about what's happening today, but that's a tool that they can use all the time.
Right. All the time, yes. I feel like all these tools, it's very fear-based what's going on. So all these tools can definitely be used no matter what's going on.
Great. So we're really in a holding pattern right now of getting a final outcome, and then I think obviously there's a lot to come with that. But in the next few days, as we sort of await, and hopefully it's not longer than that, the outcome of the election, what are some tips that you can give to families so that they're not fixated, obsessed, focused, glued to the television? Healthy ways for them to engage as a family without, disregarding the fact that this is going on, but also bringing balance.
So get outside in a healthy way. Try and have the ability to be able to get outdoors. Try and have the ability to be able to, they say sunlight is very, very effective for vitamin D, which influences your mood. Go away from the news for a little bit. Try and pull yourself away from the doomsday messages over and over and over. That's a huge one.
Really good. So we're talking about sort of what to do right now as we anticipate, but I'm sure equally as challenging or anxiety driven is like, okay, once we get the results, and actually I can give you a really specific example. I was on the call with a client today that was reflecting, and she was talking about her 10-year-old that was reflecting back to the last election, and where her 6-year-old was actually like involved, educated, like had an opinion at 6. Which is probably a whole other host of a conversation, but, and, went to bed, woke up the next morning, and the results weren't what they anticipated. And this was 4 years ago. And so the mom was saying to me today, I can't go through that again. Right now I have a 10-year-old who's like politically active. And I'm actually, as much as I'm, have my own fears or concerns about the outcome of the election, I may have to now help her through that, and that it's, and that there's such passion around it. And so once we do know the outcome, and it may, impact people differently, what's your advice for parents on how to talk about it with their kids, as the couples even that bring that conversation, to their family? What's the best way to approach sitting down and talking about it?
So be very intentional. A lot of times kids will give you so many messages, but you have to be emotionally available in order to pick them up. They might be saying something that is just so profound and so incredible, but if you're on your phone or if you're talking to a friend or if you're busy doing something else, you miss it. And it's going right over your head. So be intentionally available. Try and actually schedule time to sit down and talk with them and say,
Mhm.
hey, dinner time conversations are great for this too. Hey,
Mhm.
what's going on for you guys right now? What is this like for you? How do you think you're supposed to feel? How do you think other people feel about this? What can we do about it? What can we do as a family? And then also, what can we do as your parents to help you out with this? Just knowing that you're available, just knowing that as parents, my parents want to hear from me. They want to actually know what's going on in my life. That's such a big deal.
Yeah, it's that they know the door's open, that they can talk to you about it openly and not be afraid or think it's, like my kids say, stupid or silly. No, we want to talk about it. Let's talk about it as a family. And like you said, one of our biggest conversational times as a family is during dinner. So we try to, dinner could get pretty hot and heavy at the house. That's when we really try to bring to the forefront topics such as this and other things going on, school, COVID, things like that. And it becomes a really good forum for them to express their feelings.
Exactly. I like the car rides too,
Oh.
especially if you have a teenager, where we turn
Mhm.
off the music. And I have a rule where he's not allowed to have the phone on. He's not allowed to be scrolling through watching, NBA highlight videos. He has to talk. He has to engage with me. And so that's one of the rules. He doesn't like it, but we do information out of him that way. And it's open. He knows that I'm available during that time if he needs it, because we're very busy, especially
Yeah.
if you have multiple kids or even with one kid. You're busy. You're very busy. And so that's what happens. We have to make intentional time where the communication lines are open and they'll know it.
Right.
Yeah. You just totally read my mind, because my next question was, what if you have a teenager who doesn't think they need to express their emotion and they like shut down, but their minds are percolating and their heart's racing. It's like, I think trapping them in a car sounds like the right place to do it.
Definitely. And you can also ask them, what do your friends think about this?
Yes, that's really
And if
great.
you ask them what their friends think about it, they're probably going to give you some insights or their own thoughts as well.
Yeah, I think that's good, because then they're not as put on the spot, but they can probably convey what the
Through,
conversation is.
like,
Yeah, with their friends. So good. The car thing is such a good one. I'm totally gonna do that with my 17-year-old.
it's like that old adage of, you're like, I have this friend and she has a problem. I wonder if you can help me with it. That let them portray it through their friend in the car, maybe on the way to Dunkin', getting a coffee,
Exactly. And for I have a little tip too for smaller kids. If you have them like throw out their toys somewhere, and you could do something that's kind of like play therapy, but I've done this actually with horses, where you go to the side of the horse corral and you say, hey, what's your favorite horse? And they pick something, and then you ask them, what are the qualities of this horse? And they'll start describing things about themselves. So same thing that you can do in a kid's room with like stuffed animals. What's your favorite? What do you like about that one? And I've actually done this once with my 10-year-old, and he was telling me about his favorite little cartoon pumpkin. And the pumpkin had a blue shirt, and I look over at him, he's wearing a blue shirt. And so he like just so many details. He's like, he likes to be there for people. He's a good friend. And he's going on. And I'm like, oh, my sweetheart. Cutest thing. And I'm just like, wow, and he came up with some insecurities that the pumpkin had too. And I'm like, oh my goodness, I need to help. But it showed me so much about him. So that's like a little backdoor way of trying to get smaller kids to be able to open up and talk about things. Like you can say, well, what makes this one angry? What makes this one sad? And they come up with it, truly connect to whatever they're demonstrating, whatever they're talking about. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, that is really cool. It shows that, we need to try sort of different approaches and ways from from little kids to teenagers to even adults, and how we communicate our opinions and what we need. Speaking of opinions, so in a household where you might, and this is probably not all the time, but have parents and that have different opinions or views, whether they're political views, whether, they're things every day, but knowing that really people are focused on what's happening with the election. What's a healthy way for parents to talk about that in front of their kids? Because, you know, it's not necessarily, obviously there's a couple and they're married, but everyone has different opinions and views. This is just such a focal point right now, on how to, like, what's your advice on how to navigate the conversations in a family that way?
So I love that question because, oh my gosh, when do couples agree with stuff? Like, that's pretty much what I work on all the time with what people come in, you know, to talk about. And with the elections, most of the time it's more like they're on the same page, but there are a lot of values where they're not on the same page, and then they're not feeling heard. So there's one thing, and it's kind of like a light bulb effect for people. You don't actually have to agree with your partner in order to make them feel understood. But it is crucially important to make your partner feel understood, no matter what is being said. It's very important. It's an important listening skill. So I could completely disagree with your values, but I could make you feel heard. I can make you feel listened to, which is what your partner needs. It's okay if I disagree. That's totally fine. And then another part, this is this thing that I do in therapy. It's called a stress reducing conversation. And it's a way to listen. And so there are little concepts that you use. One is eye contact. That's super important, especially now with technology constantly being right in front of us. People listen, looking down at their phones while they're talking to people, and it's so common. So eye contact is big. Trying to gain an understanding before going into advice mode is a really big deal when talking to anyone about anything. When your partner wants to feel heard. Oh, can you hear me?
Oh, no, I meant it's like listening. Sorry.
Oh. No, that's fine. So when your partner wants to feel heard, it's so important to actually make them feel as if you understand. So one way to do that is you ask engaging questions like, what makes that so hard? Why is that difficult for you? Just engage, try and explore a little bit. And after you're done engaging and exploring with your partner, and know that there's no reaction that is an overreaction. That is such a big deal in therapy, where people are like, no, but she's being crazy. He's being over or irrational. This is not something that, you know, we should even focus on because it's not real. No, it's very real. It's very real for your partner. So make sure that whatever your reaction is, or your partner's reaction, make sure that they don't feel like you're trying to tell them it's an overreaction. Whatever they're feeling is very, very important. Another concept is never, ever, ever side with the enemy. And that's a really easy one to do. So never siding with the enemy is so important. I have an example of that if you'd like for me to.
Yeah, I was going to say, tell me more. I'm not sure I'm smart enough to know what that means.
So let's say, hypothetically speaking, my wonderful husband never puts on his seatbelt, hypothetically. And so as he's driving down the road and I'm at home, an officer pulls him over and he gets a ticket. And he's constantly hearing from me, you need to put on your seatbelt. You need to put on your seatbelt. Now he's really angry. And he comes home and he's angry because it's a $300 ticket. And he's so mad. He feels, you know, he doesn't feel very smart in that moment. He feels terrible. And he's expecting me to be like, I told you so. I always tell you, you know, that's what he's expecting when he walks in the door. Never siding with the enemy would be me swallowing my pride there, because I want to say, I told you, now we have to pay a $300 ticket. But it would be saying, oh, that sucks. I'm so sorry. I'm not siding with the enemy, because he walks in the door and he's like, that cop, it was such a jerk and blah, blah, blah. Was the cop a jerk? No, he just pulled you over because you didn't have a seatbelt.
You didn't do the right thing.
Exactly. You got a ticket because you did something wrong. Do I need to point that out in the moment? No, I don't need to.
Yeah.
He knows. He feels dumb in the moment. I don't need to highlight, how dumb do you feel right now?
Right. It's pointing out the obvious.
Yes. So not siding with the enemy, no matter what. And it's very difficult with the I told you so moments. So those are some concepts of the stress reducing conversation, where you try to listen and you try to engage.
I'm sure that is super helpful for many different scenarios that people are thinking that they've handled in the wrong way until they just heard you say that. Well, before we go into, I know Dana always has some fun fact questions. Is there anything else? You know, we focused a lot on the election driving some relationship and interactions, but I think everything that you've given as advice can be used in a lot of different situations. Is there anything else that you'd want to share with our listeners that we missed?
Yes, I just thought of something too that's super important. 6-second kisses are so important. And you don't have to answer this, but whoever the viewers are right now, think to yourself, when was the last time I gave my partner a 6-second kiss? And the reason behind that is because oxytocin releases through your bodies when you hit 6-second kisses. So when that's happening, as long as both parties want it and want to engage in that 6-second kiss, when that's happening, the oxytocin releases, which actually makes you want to do stuff for your partner. Every marriage needs two people to want to do stuff for each other. And it's a really good indicator of marital health. That's called accepting influence. So 6-second kisses, so the oxytocin releases. And it's a really amazing thing. It changes things immediately. It's like the fairy dust of couples therapy.
Oh my God. So such a good way to describe it. I've never heard that. And fairy dust and 6-second kisses, I can like remember, and that's awesome.
Yeah, that's one of my favorites.
I think my husband would be like, I'm really glad you talked to Melyssa today.
Only 6 seconds.
I'll be like, hold on.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, Melyssa, we could talk to you forever. You are a bevy of information. Thank you so much for these tidbits. I can't wait to put them to use in my family and lifestyle. I'm sure Jamie, I know she's like, I could see like her body. She's and stuff like that. And it's been wonderful. But at the end of every live in the lounge, I love to ask some fun questions so people get to know you on a different side. So do you like coffee or tea?
Herbal tea. I don't drink caffeine.
Oh, you're a good woman. I'm trying. So you don't drink caffeine, but do you like wine?
No, I don't drink alcohol either.
You are amazing. Oh my God. Okay. What is your favorite flower?
Gardenia.
So if you are not helping the couples of the world, what are you doing in your free time?
Hanging out with the kids. Our whole lives are revolved around the kids, or we try to get in dating with each other. So that's super important, to date each other and talk to each other. I actually like my husband. He's pretty cool. So I'd like spending time with him. So we do stuff together. We go on dates and we just talk, and it's cool. We like it. We're both business owners. A lot of the stuff we talk about is like business oriented too. Right. Mm-hmm. So we're constantly growing our businesses, and it's cool to like lean on each other for that. He's kind of my inspiration with that.
Aww. That's wonderful. You could bounce ideas off of each other and have the support system. I think that's wonderful. Do you have a favorite quote?
Yes. So it is kind of long. What we love determines what we seek. What we seek determines what we think and do. What we think and do determines who we are and who we will become.
Makes a lot of sense. And if you could pick one favorite book or author that you think one of our viewers should go and check out of the library, what would it be?
Anything John Gottman. I'm a couples therapist. He has some amazing work out there. That's what I do, is a lot of Gottman stuff. So Gottman, John Gottman or Julie Gottman, their husband and wife, and they're just amazing. So anything made by them, created by them.
Okay, that is awesome. I think I'm going to go to my Kindle later. James, do you have anything else to sum up this amazing half hour of information?
No, just gratitude for some really inspiring advice, personal advice, and just for everyone to be able to start applying. I think there's some like really key things that people can take away and employ and make a difference. So thank you so much for your time.
Of course, guys. Thank you so much for having me. It was fun.
My pleasure. So Melyssa, where can everyone find you on the web? Are you themarriagecouch.com?
I'm marriagecouch.com. My Instagram is at Marriage Couch, and there are date night ideas and little advice tips. It's on Instagram, but yeah, marriagecouch.com, and you can schedule a free 15-minute consult with me if you would like to.
That's awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time and your knowledge. And I'm going to go give my husband a 6-second kiss now.
Good.
Thanks again. Have a great night.
Good night.
Thank you so much.